Okay, this third lesson will be about rendering out our animation. And once we're happy with the animation, and we're happy with the way the void, the facial setup is done, and all the cameras look pristine and perfect, or at least to the point where we want to say, I'm done with the animation. We can go into rendering. Now we're not going to do the rendering from the render setting. This is just too complicated, and maybe later on I'll do another rendering demo on rendering. But right now I do not have access to the Arnold renderer. I had an issue with downloading it, so I have to re-download it. But I'll do another one later on that. But we're not going to do rendering from here because this can just be very complicated and mind-boggling. They're a little daunting if you're just first looking. So we're actually going to do a render for what's called a play blast. A play blast is a good way to just quickly get a look of your animation out there. And well, first off, I'm actually going to clean up my scene. And I figured out why his eye is like that. So I'm going to just select the geometry. And it's like that because the normals are not facing that proper direction. Normals of geometry, if you don't know, are it's the direction that that the geometry face is facing. So I can change that very easily by going to my attribute editor, select it. Okay, it's my Lambert 2. I'm going to change this Lambert to the eyeball actually. And actually my normals of my geometry are facing the wrong direction. You can see how they're facing inward when they should be facing outward. It's a quick fix to do that. If your geometry ever appears black in your animation, this is why. So I select my geometry, go to display, and reverse. Reverse normals. And now we get a nice gray Lambert shape. I'm going to turn off face normals, my little hotkey there. And I actually want to add color to this as well, color to the eyeball. I have a nice texture for it as well. But it doesn't show up even when I hit 6 on the keyboard, which is show textures. So go into it's located F, work, Rhino, Weasel, eye color. I actually move this to animation. And let's find it in where did I put it? Rigs. Not there. 11-second clock. Alright. So nice eyeball. And painted this texture and painted this eyeball for just for this character. So I'm gonna go to show. That's it. View selected. So I reload everything in my scene. Normals. Again, this is my normals are facing the wrong direction here. And this shader. This is just the that's the outer lens of my eyeball that I created. You can see it's transparent, but it just catches a reflection. That's all it's made for, is to catch reflection or specularity, to get that nice shine on the eyeball, not actually on the iris itself from the lens. So I have that set up. I just do that because I wanted to have a nice animated scene, a nice look. The other thing you notice is that the geometry it's in very low poly mode. So a lot of your characters will have actual smooth button or a way to smooth your geometry. Some of them are located here on the master set. Mine is I put it on this the upper body shape. And once I select that, I look on the right side of the screen, and see smooth. And so I set that to 1. Watch what happens when I do that. It just smoothed out my character. Basically, just that's connected to my polysmooth face, the divisions. You don't want to bump it up too high. One is fine for what I'm going to be doing. But now let's get into the play blasting in this animation. So I'm going to go to Panels, Perspective, Panels, yeah, Perspective, and then go to my render camera. This is the camera that I want to show my animation. And I'm going to turn on these buttons up here in the top. If I have lights in my scene, I can turn this on as well, and it will add lighting to my scene. And I do not have any lights in my scene, but I do want to turn on the ambient occlusion, which just kind of adds like a nice little shadow along the edge there. And I'll do another lesson on lighting Agmeister soon. But for the rendering purpose, I want to turn off NURBS curves and just make sure that the polygons are selected. So your shot may look like this, or everything's checked. Then you just go to check none. We'll turn everything off in your scene. Even your cameras and lights, they're still there, but they're just not showing. But I want to go to show and polygons. So now just my polygons are being viewed in my scene. You know what, I'm going to add a little floor too here as well, just to place them somewhere. Scale this up to 100. Try to make it even bigger. So there's a floor. You can see like when I turn the ambient occlusion button, see my shadows? Like it's touching the floor. There's also this little button right here, which is the multi-sample anti-aliasing, or the make pretty button. So if you want, you could look on my screen and see if I can magnify this. Okay. It's really hard to see, but see how it's pixelated in there along the magnify? If I magnify it, well, selecting that. Actually, I accidentally set a key on my camera here, so now again, this is with an auto key turn on. Just if you do that, just select the key, right click, and delete. If you notice, whenever I turn this button on, you see how it took those away. Let's make it go into expert mode here. I'll show you what it looks like. That's it with it on. Turn that off. It gets jagged again, so I'm gonna leave that turned on. And you can also, in the way that we're going to render, turn on motion. And before I actually click this button, I'm going to hit Control S. I'm going to save my scene. It's very important, especially whenever you're doing anything like motion blur, sort of lighting. Just give it a save, because there's a chance that your scene may crash. So I'm saved. I'm going to turn on motion. And I'm going to go into my timeline now with everything turned on. I've got my ambient occlusion, motion blur, and the multi-sample anti-aliasing for Make Pretty button. And I'm going to double click in the timeline. When I do that, my timeline should turn red. And if you remember from past video, that's like selecting the timeline. So now I'm selecting all the keys in this timeline. I'm going to right click, go to Play Blast Options. And Play Blast Options menu will show up. These are the settings I want to use, but I'm going to go back and reset everything, so this is what it should look like. First thing I want to do, I want to turn my format from AVI or QuickTime to image. encoding, we need to change this to an image file format that accepts alpha channels. There's a lot that do with RLA, TIFF, TIFF-U, Targa, and PSD, and PNG. You cannot use a JPEG or a GIF image encoding. Those are two file formats that do not accept alpha channels. I'm sure there's a couple more here. BMP won't accept it. But for our purpose, the smallest file size that accepts an alpha channel is a PNG. So I'm going to select PNG. And I'm going to go to display size from window. Let's do it from render settings. Scale. I do not want this to scale small at all, so I'm actually going to scale this up to 1. 1 just means 100%. Frame padding. The frame padding means the number of pads it's going to give your frames. Because there's 300 frames, we need to set this to 3. If there was only 90 frames, we set it to 2. If there was 9 frames, we would set it to 1. If there was 1,000 frames, we would set the frame padding to 4. That just gives us 4 places to put in whenever it goes to export, spits out these images. Last thing you want to do is you want to click on Save to File, and you get a movie file open up. And what I do is Control C, copy that, and I go to Browse. This is also important. So wherever you want to render this to, create a new folder. New folder. And we'll call this image sequence. So my image sequence folder, this is where I want to save everything to. And again, you can come down here to reselect it. It doesn't matter because we've already changed it to where we've already changed it in the Playblast options. But I want to make sure it's a PNG and hit save. Oh, I could give the file name. So I'm going to give the file name. Just hit Control V, paste the weasel in there, and I'll call this weasel lip sync miniature. Put your last name in there, just so so you know what's there, in case you're saving it on the student drive somewhere. And hit save. You notice when you do that, it says movie file, save to. For me, it's educational, 3D animation, image sequence, weasel, lip sync, miniature. And I'm going to hit Playblast. You can sort of see a little bit of the motion blur happening right here. And what it's doing is it's actually recording from the screen. So it's capturing your screen right here in Maya. Okay, you see some of that motion blur that happened? And that motion blur happened right there because it was jumping in between scenes. Actually, I think I'm going to turn motion blur off. Now I'm going to do another pass of this, and I'm going to turn it off. Just because I do not like what it's doing there with the eyes. It's kind of making some weird stuff happen. And what pops up automatically is F-check. You have F-check installed, and here's where you see like the at symbol. That's where the frame padding is added into. So yeah, I just want to close this all down. I don't need this anymore because I'm going to do this from After Effects. Again, I'll just save my scene, and I will open up After Effects and go to File, Import, File. Here's the folder I created, image sequence folder. Double click on that. Weasel, lip sync, Sure. Again, there's 0, 0, 0. That's the frame padding that is added. Select that. Make sure footage is selected, and make sure sequence options PNG sequence is checked. Sometimes this will be unchecked if you've never imported a sequence before, but I'm going to make sure that button is checked and go to input. If you've done this all correctly, make sure I'll take your image sequence and drag it into a new column. And in doing so, because we've done it this way, if you look here, you see the checkered background. That means that there's an alpha channel behind there, so we can add in whatever we choose. This is where if you want to create a background, or drop your characters into a scene. Okay, and let's create a default red solid. I'll put it back behind my character. Then the last thing is, I'm sure you'll notice the bar going around it. This is, you want to scale this up so that you can view it. And I'll scale it up to, sure it's at 130, actually 131. A good frame. So now you can play your animation. You see some of the glitches that happen in there with the motion blur turned on. Right there. That's a problem with the motion blur that's happening right there. That's my eyeballs and my jaw coming out of my character. I don't want that to happen, so I wonder if that's actually a problem with my frame. And again, also for me, this came in at 23.97 frames per second. I want this to be a flat 24. So I'm going to go right click on interpret footage, main, and set this the frame rate to be 24. And I will come back into my Maya scene. It's still red from before. If you want to get out of the red, just select anywhere in the timeline. I'm going to turn off motion and just to double check, I'm going to see what frame that one's at. So right now it's at frame. Hold down Control and left click. I can change my frames from a number code to frames, and that's at frame 30. So let's just take a look at frame 30 in my Maya scene. Make sure nothing's happening with the rig, which I don't see anything. So that was a render glitch. And that happened because motion blur. This is not a perfect system, but this is great for previewing your animation. And we can even add motion blur later on into our scene. Another thing I didn't like in my After Effects render was the actual ground. So in case you want to add your own ground into your scene, let's go to, I'm just going to actually delete this. So now my character is just free floating there in the scene. File, right, let's save this again, save scene, double click, right click, play blast options, everything's set up the same, and it's actually going to overwrite the files that I just created. So I'm going to go play blast. Close that down, and if I in my scene, it's already opened up. I just scrub my timeline and it will automatically load it in. If it doesn't, and you see like the little glitch there, always go select this, select it in your project file, right click, reload footage, and right click, reload footage. So, and you'll have your animation play with no background. You can add a floor if you want to make this your floor. However you want to do to set up your scene for animation. So that's all for the lesson on rendering your scene out of Maya.